On July 29th, 1969, an amazing thing in United States history happened. The very first moon landing was achieved that day. Neil Armstrong, along with other crew members, successfully won the race to the moon. According to CNN, Neil Armstrong famously said, "That's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind." The United States was in a race against Soviet Union, modern-day Russia, to be more accurate, to successfully land someone on the moon. President Kennedy had made the very bold statement saying that the United States would be the very first country to reach the moon by the very end of that century. According to History.com, though, John F. Kennedy was more focused on beating the Soviets than actually getting to the moon. Since that eventful day, many people have speculated that the moon landing was entirely faked in the sole attempt to beat the Soviet Union for dominance over the space race. I'm here to convince you that it, in fact, was faked. There are many reasons why the moon landing could have potentially been faked, but I'm going to stick to three reasons that are very, very concrete. Those reasons are the lack of wind in the atmosphere of the moon, the mechanical and almost robotic movements of Neil Armstrong's motions, and the placement of the light on Buzz's face shield. Now, Buzz was another one of the astronauts in the landing. Don't forget that. Now, there is no wind in space. Let's say that you're in the Super Bowl, right? Let's say you're about to hit the game-winning kick. There's one problem. You don't know where to aim the ball at. What are some things that you account for? Oh, the distance from you and the goalposts, how hard you have to kick it, and what else? Wind. Now, how do you find wind? How do you find how strong the wind is? Well, in football, you grab a little piece of the turf, throw it up in the air, right? Well, depending on which way it goes, you kick the opposite way so the wind can carry the ball in between the goalposts. Now, according to NASA, the moon actually has a very, very, very small atmosphere, but there is no wind in the atmosphere of the moon. Now, you can actually make the argument and say that the flag was just moving really slowly and falling because of the lack of strong gravity of the moon. But a very specific video on one of the astronauts actually putting the flag in the moon, it seems as if the wind is impacting the direction and there's like ripples in the middle of the actual flag. The reason the moon can have no wind is because of one specific reason: the water cycle. Now, the water cycle, evaporation, condensation, so on and so forth, right? Well, wind is actually caused by the evaporation of the water going to the clouds. There's some sort of chemical reaction that happens in there, and if you want to know more about it, I'll gladly tell you. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at that. We know from decades of research about the moon that there is absolutely no liquid on it. So, without liquid, there can be no water cycle, right? And without no water cycle, there can be no moon. Ah, gotcha, you almost didn't pay attention, right? Without the water cycle, there could be no wind, right? Exactly. Well, another one of the things that I can argue with you about is that the movements of Neil Armstrong after the fall seem very mechanical, and it's almost looking as if he was on a harness. Most of us have seen superhero movies, and in these movies there's superhuman feats. For example, Superman jumping over an entire building. Now, I don't know about you, but I've always wanted to do something like that, or maybe fly. But sadly enough, we know that these things are aided by visual effects or harnesses or Hollywood. Now, in this video, Neil Armstrong was actually falling, and his getup was a little bit too mechanicalistic, almost assisted actually. If you look closely, you can actually see what looks like to be a harness on his suit. Now, someone can dispute this and say that the gravity on the moon is nowhere near as strong and you have more control over your body. But I know that there have been a few times where us as human beings, we fall to the ground or trip and we try to catch ourselves. We look silly just trying to reach up for something that's just not there. Almost as if we want a supernatural force to help getting us up. If we think that it's silly to do it here on Earth, why would it be different anywhere else? The light coming off of Buzz Aldrin's visor was actually incorrectly placed in regards to the rest of the photographs. The first thing we're going to talk about in this is removing the actual potential of a dispute. Now, let's say that it's noon and you're taking a drive, right? The sun hits you in the face and you have to put on sunglasses, or you have to drop the visor so the sun doesn't hit you. What's your only other thing that you can do? Turn your head left, right, whichever way it is, so the sun doesn't hit you. Now, what moves, the sun or you? you move, right? The sun isn't going to move its direction where it's actually hitting you, right? It's not going to happen. Well, in Buzz Aldrin's case, his visor was protecting him from solar radiation, lack of oxygen, and other things. Whenever you see the reflection in Buzz's visor, it's actually incorrectly placed in regard to the rest of the photograph. Seeing this image right here, you can actually tell that the sphere is only lit up on one side. Now, what can the sphere do? It can flip over, turn, right? But only the sphere is what's moving. This isn't. On the other side, it's completely dark. There's no possible way for light to hit there, right? Well, in the picture provided by NASA and elaborated on by Express.co, the sun is actually hitting Buzz in a way that's not geometrically accurate in regards to the other objects. So, as I've explained to you, the moon landing has way more than enough evidence to prove that it was a hoax. Whether it's the flag waving when there is no wind, superhuman feats from Neil Armstrong, or an improper emplacement of the sun. I encourage every single one of you to take the time and do some research and confirm that what I just told you is completely true. As for me, I'm going to keep doing a little more research just to show you guys that it's actually false. As for all of you, sit back, relax, and let the evidence speak for itself.